Welcome to our webinar today. And like most contact center programs, we want to make sure that we start on time and that we end on time, because we all know that a contact center minute matters. And so welcome to our webinar today. Today, we're going to talk about fear and facts. What really happens when you let AI take over QA. And again, my name is Michael Tamer, and I'm anxious to share with you some thoughts and ideas on this subject. For those of you that don't know, I'm CEO of Proponisi, which is a SaaS platform that does work specifically in this area of measuring quality, but also in measuring performance management and integrated training and engagement and coaching, and then also voice the customer. So we really do cover all the different facets of what's important and what's necessary in order to drive performance in your center. And the other thing I wanted you to know is that I have a podcast, which is called The Contact Center Coach. I think I have 143 podcasts out there on leadership. They're designed for frontline supervisors, team leads, contact center managers, executives, and even designed for those that are considering making a move into leadership in the contact center. They all run about 17 to 22 minutes. I tell people all the time that if you listen to the first one and you hate it, listen to a second one. If you hate the second one, don't tell anyone about it. But if you like the second one, then go ahead and listen to more of them. I'm always open to additional subjects that you might want me to focus on, so please let me know. And the reason that we're focused on quality today is because we want to talk to you about the impact of AI on measuring quality. And I have a little bit of history when it comes to quality, in the sense that my original company built the technology around the original quality monitoring program. So I've been around since dinosaurs have been roaming the earth. And I was even in the FCC meeting where they approved your call and be monitored for quality purposes. And for those of you that need some sort of a point in time, that occurred in the last century. So I've been involved with, around, and invested in quality monitoring for a really long time. So the change in AI is pretty exciting, and for some also very scary. So here's 3 statistics. Hopefully by this time you've read them. I'm not sure about the last one, that everybody's going to do something by the end of 2025. That means that if you haven't started yet, you need to hurry. But I don't think the number is going to be 87% at the end of the year. That's wishful thinking, but exciting nonetheless. If you've been working in contact centers for a long time, this is probably not the first webinar you've heard about a technology change that's going to change the world, because it seems like contact centers always have another technology that's going to come out that's going to actually change things. But I'm on this drive to get the industry to stop talking about being data-driven and start talking about being people-driven. We can use the data to drive people, but we need to be a people-oriented organization. And so I want you to hear the motto that we believe in here at Proponisi, and that is, we're trying to build leaders who understand that people in the contact center need joy more than they need KPIs, a sense of purpose more than sophisticated monitoring, and a champion more than a supervisor. And with anything that you're doing when it comes to technology in the contact center, it has to be faster, cheaper, and better. Everything that we do has to make it faster for our side, certainly faster for our customers. It should be cheaper for both, and most importantly, it should be better. And it reminds me of the very first technology that came into the industry, and that was an IVR. The very first implementation of an IVR, when it was put out there, for bank balances, because people were calling financial institutions and they just wanted to know how much money they had in the bank, and they had to wait in queue. And so they said, you know what, we can produce a solution that will allow you to dial a different number, key in a code, and it will give you your bank balance. It was faster, it was better, and it was cheaper. And everybody loved IVRs. I mean, IVRs were the greatest thing that was ever invented because it was faster, better, and cheaper. Well, come forward 30 plus years, and today people hate IVRs. I mean, they don't hate every single application of an IVR, but they hate most of them. they're not necessarily faster. I guess they're faster than maybe waiting on hold. They're cheaper, but they're cheaper for the company only. And in many instances, they're not better, but we've been able to offload them because of the cheaper component. And so I do believe that every technology needs to make sure that it's covering faster, better, and cheaper. And the good news is that I think that AI and AI QI quality monitoring, which we're going to be talking about today, quality assurance, is actually going to do that. And so the lens that we decided to look at this through was, let's look at some of the top fears. I want to remind you that we do have a chat button where you can let us know. I'm going to post 5 fears that I think you may have with relation to AI. If you've got another fear, please let me know. We'd be happy to talk about it. If there's a question that you want to ask, go ahead and ask it at any time. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through these. We're going to show you a little bit of this technology in action, and hopefully, create some interest and create some understanding of what's going on in this particular area. So first up, fear number 1 is AI is going to replace my job. I put my job in quotations because maybe it's not you that's on the phone, but or it's on the webinar with me, but it's the people that are associated and around quality monitoring. What happens to the people that are listening to the calls, the QM people? Are they going to go away? Is it going to change in today's world? Are we going to lose agents? Are agents going to go away? And the answer to all of those questions are yes, some people are going to go away. AI is going to provide some great opportunity for us to reduce some costs and to change things, but it's also going to make things significantly better. So let's deal with the first issue. Who potentially could lose their job? Well, I think that the fact that AI measures 100% of the calls is going to mean that we certainly don't have to have people monitoring every single call the way they are today. I think that what's going to happen is in the very early stages of your implementation of AI in this QM space is that you're probably going to continue to do some sort of measurement or calibration between what you were doing from humans and what the AI system is doing. And I think you're probably going to be doing that for quite some time. You're literally going to want to measure and make sure that it's still in touch with and still doing what it is you want to measure. So I think there's going to be there's an opportunity for a reduction in the number of QM people that you have. Obviously, they can be moved to another department or whatever you may want to do with them, but you will definitely get a reduction in the number of people that are able to do QM. But I also think that you're going to find that you're going to want to keep some people around because you're going to want to continue to do some of your own assessments as well. Because I think every time you do your own assessment, it's going to help you to better look at and better fine tune your AI that's doing the QM for you as well. So it's going to be a change, but I think it's going to be a positive change. And of course, the other thing is if you're measuring today 4 to 8 calls per rep per month, we're now talking about the opportunity to be able to do 100%. And that 100% is going to rock your world. And it's going to rock your world because it's going to give you far more information than you ever had before. And most important, it's going to give you far more accurate information. And with that accurate information, what that's going to do is it's going to breed confidence in it's going to bring confidence in your ability to be able to coach and train accordingly. The second fear that we find is that AI is going to give unfair or inconsistent QA scores. And it's going to do that because there's going to be a pretty massive change that you're going to have to be prepared for. And the massive change is you're going to have to change your questions. And you're going to have to change your questions because AI isn't human. It's not going to do things from a subjective approach. It's going to do them from an objective approach. And this is the biggest change and the biggest impact that's going to have in your organization. The 7 to 12 to 25 or 30, whatever the number of questions are that you're asking today, they're going to have to change for the most part. And that's because we're moving from subjective to objective in the sense that today we're in a legacy world. We're looking at subjective scoring as a great example is rate the agent's level of professionalism during the interaction, which means that we're using our human brains to make a decision on whether this is unprofessional or very professional or exceptionally professional. And then what we're doing is we're calibrating with others because we've defined what being professional is, probably in the most case, in many objective ways, and then we're making some sort of assessment accordingly. Well, of course, there's some challenges with that. We've constantly got to be doing some sort of calibration. It's a little bit hard to quantify. We can get a little bit of bias in there. One person may hear something that somebody else doesn't. Someone may be a little tougher grader in a particular area because it's important to them, or maybe they're responsible for training in that area and they're focused on that area. And so the questions are going to change to, I'm sorry, before I say that, the risk that we run when we use this is that there are some complaints that come up. And I love this one, the first one. It's the one that you hear all the time. You caught me on a bad day. What about the 800 calls that I nailed over the course of the month? You only listened to 4. If you'd have just listened to any one of the other 796 calls that I had, you would have found something really spectacular that would have gone on. Or the second one that happens quite often is George is the one that monitored me. He's over there in QA. George doesn't like me. George is a tough grader. I've really struggled with George. But the reason is because we're only doing 4 out of 800 or 600 or whatever your number is. We're doing such a small amount that it breeds a sense that, you know what, maybe you really don't understand me. Maybe you really can't see exactly what it is I'm doing. And by the way, when they say they can't really see exactly what I'm doing, what they really mean is you found only the stuff that I've done bad, and you've missed out on all the spectacular things that I'm doing really, really well. And quality monitoring needs to be about finding somebody doing something right. And yes, we are looking for compliance. Yes, we're looking for ways to train, but it becomes an extraordinary opportunity to find somebody doing something right. And if I can find somebody doing something right, then I know that I can encourage them. If I can encourage them, I can train them, I can coach them, I can engage them, and I can help them to be more loyal, and they'll stick around longer. But with the change over to AI, we're going to go to objective scoring rather than subjective scoring, which means that everything's yes, no, but it's specifically focused in this case on professionalism. Did the agent use thank you for calling? Did the agent use may I place you on the hold? Did the agent use is there anything else that I can help you with? It's specific measurable criteria. It's got actionable feedback. It's scalable, and it's going to answer the questions that were the components that summed up how we measured and evaluated whether somebody was professional or not. And this change is going to allow us to have great confidence because it's going to produce 100% of the calls. And when it produces 100% of the calls, it gives us an opportunity to really give someone a very clear, distinct, without a shadow of a doubt, understanding of exactly what's going on. The third fear that we find, my voice raised there a little bit, the third fear that we find is that AI will make agents feel like they're under a microscope. AI is going to enable better coaching and agent empowerment. It's going to literally change the way things are done, because we now are going to have confidence that we have a consistent answer, and we're also going to be able to give day-to-day answers. And I did a podcast recently on this that was, I think it was entitled "Everybody Wins." It's somewhere between 140 and 144. And what I said in it is that everybody wins. The front line is going to win, because now they're going to have confidence that 100% of their calls are being measured. And they're going to be able to get feedback on them every day if you want to give them feedback every day on how they did the day before or that afternoon or whatever you do. So I'm going to be able to get information into their hands almost immediately. That information can be encouraging. That information can be coaching. It can be focused on something they've done wrong, or maybe many things that they've done right, or maybe something that they were working on that we now can give them feedback on that they've improved on. They talk about the fact that it takes 21 to 29 days for you to make a change. Well, this is an environment where I can coach them on something, and then I can create an environment where they can then change and get an update on it and see it. And it's just a great opportunity for coaching. So imagine that you're sitting down with the QM person or with your supervisor, and you sit down with them. Maybe you sit down with them twice a month, and they tell you go through your coaching, and they tell you about the 2 calls that you worked on and the things you did right and the things you did wrong on them. And of course, you're sitting there saying, I had another 400 calls. And then that happens again 2 weeks later. Well, now when I sit down with them, one, I've gotten a daily update on how I've been doing, But now they really do have a clear picture of what's going on. And if there's some areas that I need to work on, I'm not going to see it once. I'm going to see it multiple times. And those areas that could put me at risk, which means that I make a mistake with compliance, I'm going to know about that immediately and have the opportunity to fix it rather than show up in some sort of a program where I find out that I've done it 10 times and I've missed it. I'm going to have that opportunity to change. So it's a win for the front line. It's a huge win for the supervisor or the team lead, because I now know where to actually coach. And when I'm coaching and I'm trying to sandwich, which means I'm trying to put together something they've done well along with something that they need to work on and something they've done well again, I have plenty of information with which to do that. I have plenty of information with which to celebrate success, get better, and it just breeds confidence, because I know when I'm talking to this employee that I know exactly what's going on with them. I know the areas that they need to work on. I know the areas that they've improved on. And I know the areas that will help them be successful so they can get their bonuses, so they can get a raise, so that they'll stick around. And that confidence, that ability to know exactly where it is I need to hone in on will change the lives of your supervisors, because it'll change their lives, because when they sit down and have a discussion with the front line, it won't be a confrontation anymore, because it will actually be a clear, distinct understanding of what actually is going on. Now, I've told you a lot of things, but what I want to do is I want to show you some things as well here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over to Scott, and Scott's going to take control and show you some of the ways that we use the technology to encourage the accuracy of the data, the ability to coach, the ability to train, the ability to remind, the ability to renew. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Scott. You're going to take the screen and go.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Let me go ahead and just share my screen here, and you should see a dashboard showing up. Is that working out okay for everyone?
I see a dashboard, yes.
Great. So what I'm going to start with is just sort of showing the back end of Proponisi, where we have APIs and connections into our clients' technology to be able to either grab their recordings or stream the call in real time and do a real-time transcription, and then apply some other AI related to the evaluations Michael's been talking about, as well as generating, summary notes that can automatically be pushed into the CRM tool of our clients, kind of taking that burden away. And in this case, I'm just going to show, like, if we trigger an API and we're getting details for a call, we can consume the data from an actual call recording, or if we're inside the call, we can stream and transcribe in real time, or there's options for if you've got transcriptions and, you feel like you need to continue using your transcriptions, we can consume those as well. And then once it runs through this process, you'll see a couple of things that it's able to do. And let me just make sure I'm still actively logged in here. Just 1 second. Yep, there we go. So the first thing we do is we'll transcribe the call. Again, we could be consuming a transcription from your side. Otherwise, we can generate that transcript for you and let you see those details. I'm just kind of showing you kind of the back end. I'll show this in the front end here in just a second, but the summary here is where it can generate notes. And again, this is client specific. This is something a client in this example wanted their notes, account notes, to be in this format. So this allows you to have consistent and accurate call notes for all of the calls as well. And then the evaluation begins. And as Michael mentioned, we're using an objective approach, and the AI will show its rationale for why it's grading different things. It's smart enough to know compliance related things like, if it's supposed to, maybe with verifying the account, if there's 3 types of identification that should be provided, and if that's supposed to happen, before any information is given, and that there's no hints being provided, by the agent. It's able to understand all of that when you build your forms in Proponisi, and we'll help you convert, your existing form into a more objective form. But, in the back end, you're really explaining for these types of questions, what does it look like so that the AI understands, what does using advocacy statements look like in your, particular environment, or with what you've created and recommend in your customer service strategy. And then at the end, we also do a CSAT on the customer score at the end of that, and then we'll identify strengths and areas for improvement. And then once you log into Proponisi as a user, and I'm going to start by looking more at a supervisor or manager, director view, to look at the data. If I go under forms in here to the AI QA forms and click here, it brings you to a dashboard here where you can kind of see what's going on. This is a test account, so there's not consistent data that we're running in here, but you'll get the idea here from these charts. But here you can sort of see for this date range, the last 30 days, what's the overall score. Here you can begin to look at different sections. If you close these and just want to look at the sections on your form, you have the ability to create sections, and you can apply different point values and weights to those sections. And, you can have a fail all section or a fail all requirement in there as well. And as I'm looking at this, if I were to change any of these filters, it'll change the details here. But just as an example, if I look at opening, and this is overall for this date range, how many have passed or failed. Same thing with compliance. You could expand all of these if you wanted to and go through all the details. And then you could also drill down, into the individual responses. In fact, here you'll see the call that I just processed through the process. And if I were to click on this, I can see the individual form evaluation. So now I can see, the rep, the details, the interaction ID, overall score up here. It's got those same features here. This happened to have a fail section. So here it didn't score or didn't pass the result of empathy. And here's the rationale behind that. And then you can see all the other details, including some of those coaching tips down here. You'd also have access, to view the full transcript if you wanted to and download that. You could look at the summary notes I showed earlier and download. And you could actually, I don't think you'll hear this, but you can actually play the call recording and hear the actual call recording while you're looking at this. We do have manual forms that you can also build. So if you wanted to, calibrate against the AI, you could do that. Or if you've got, more detailed things that you might still be using a human to evaluate, you could combine that, with this evaluation and go in and do some audits on some other details. So there's, connectivity between our manual QA process and the AI QA process we have in Proponisi. This also allows you, if I go back to the dashboard, you could look at, a variety of reports that are available. If I want to look at a scorecard report real quick, I can click that and then see for, this month to date view, all the agents, who they report to, the different sections and scores. And I could, sort by any of these to look at a high to low. And you could drill down into this further with, different job titles or hire dates to look at the data. We've got, trend reports and overview reports. And one thing I'll mention, you'll notice in here we have the agent, and then we've got their supervisor and manager. So in Proponisi, we have an org chart that replicates your org chart so that all the default permissions and views are based on that. So if I'm an agent, I'll see things geared towards my performance and results only. If I'm a supervisor, I'll see those details for my team. So all these reports and capabilities would just be pushed to show, what's relevant to the person's role or job within the organization. So I do see a question about the objective scorecard. We do typically use yes or no if there's some circumstances where that doesn't apply or we need to, find out another method. We can do that, but so far we've been able to, look at details for whatever the requirements are to be able to handle it in a yes or no, because of what you're also including in that question when you build it. So if you go in and build a QA form, just to show you part of this really quick, and you're putting in the questions and the details, you're also able, once you've got a question in here, and let's say I put a yes or no in here, and then want to add sections. When you're doing this, you can add point values for any of the questions. Like you could see the yes, no default was 1 or 0, but you could make some things worth 10 points and other things worth 5, and then you can have weights on different sections to control it that way. So even though it is yes or no, you still got the ability to weight those questions out and also weight those sections out. So from here, I think I'll go ahead and just probably to show you the best way an agent sees this data and talk a little bit about, more about supervisors. I'm going to log in as an agent. And the first thing you're going to see is actually another feature in Proponisi that the AI QA integrates with, and it's called My Start. And this has been available to our clients for a couple of months now, and we're really getting great feedback on it. But what it does is it allows you to, if you let the agent just log into Proponisi for a couple of minutes each day, there's a My Start component, which basically just takes the agent through anything and everything that's important within Proponisi, including their performance, including the QA evaluation details, and the AI sort of presents it in a way that's tailored to the specific agent, offering coaching tips and some other personalization. So let me pull over an agent screen. I'm logged in as Rachel Rep here. Before I talk about this, I just want to mention here, employees can log into their profile, and down here they can pick certain interests, that they might have. You can see the ones Rachel has selected here, but maybe she's also a fan of Full Metal Alchemist or Cowboy Bebop. Let's go ahead and click that and save that. And now we're kind of getting a profile that the AI uses about Rachel, so that when we log in, I'll also mention, if you didn't see it, Rachel's interested in tennis and sports in general, but specifically tennis. And she also happens to be a fan of the TV show The Office. So you'll see why that's important here in a second. But here you can see when they log in, they'll see this. And it says here it's going to take 4 minutes. It might take a little longer on this demo because I'll talk about a little bit about what's going on and how the AI is being used. Sometimes this might be 2 minutes because not every day will they have a one-on-one scheduled with their supervisor in Proponisi. But this is a way to really take advantage of being efficient and effectively preparing an agent for the day. It just sort of supercharges them, gets them excited about how they're doing, gives them some information to prepare for the day, and we try to do it as fast as we can because we know time is of the essence, as Michael mentioned, in a contact center. So let's go ahead and click Let's Do This. The first page here is the AI evaluating some other data that we're consuming. So in addition to call data, we're able to pull in other KPIs from, your applications so that they can see their targets and all their KPIs. And this is going to tell them how they did, yesterday. It's also putting in some, personalization again, based on her interests. It's going to do some encouragement. It'll also mention specific, tips for different things that might need to, have some improvement. It can count streaks. Those streaks could be perfect attendance or, perfect auto QA. And then this could be a comment either from something that the AI has made in one of the coaching sections on the QA form I showed, or we also have a post-contact survey solution. If you've got one in place, we could consume that data and we could pull out, interesting comments that customers have said that we can also pull those out of the transcript as well. And then here's sort of a summary of their AI QA from yesterday. We'll tell them how many calls they handled, what their average scores were, how they, completed different sections, whether it was the compliance rate or any other sections. It tells them what they're doing great, what the focus should be for today, gives them some coaching tips, and now they've got some insight into this. They could always go back later and drill down into the details. We also push important information that you could update employees on. There's a LMS system in Proponisi you could leverage and create a news flash, which is something they have to acknowledge that's sort of critical that they know for the day, so they'll acknowledge that. This is a one-on-one that's being conducted in Proponisi, and the one-on-one embeds all the agent KPI data for the supervisor and agent to see. So all the QA piece that we've been talking about is available in this one-on-one, and as soon as the agent accepts this, they'll have access to see the one-on-one and the agenda and even make notes and comments, so that by the time this happens on the 5th of March, both the supervisor and agent, aren't going to go in with any surprises. They'll both kind of get a perspective of where each other stands in terms of performance. And then again, 6 months of trending in that. But they could ask, I want to learn more about tech. And we believe it's important to make that collaborative as you're creating these one-on-ones. So now that's scheduled. There's gamification that's also working with the QA, where now in this case, they're unlocking achievements based on this perfect QA scores and this fruit jam challenge, where they'll eventually unlock the achievement. This could be done, in competitive ways with leaderboards or solo challenges. If people don't want to be that competitive, they can opt into some solo challenges. You can even have team challenges as well. It'll also track any kind of sort of legacy achievements. This happens to be from a survey where they've had 1,000 perfect CSAT scores, but again, that could also be a QA goal that they've hit. This is occurring because Proponisi also learns from the QA and any other data we're consuming where employees are beginning to struggle, and it can send micro training to the agent once they meet a certain threshold of maybe struggling with professionalism or with some sort of overall empathy maybe, and we'll send an empathy training course to them. Proponisi has these courses, that you're able to leverage, and you can create your own. But this is where we reinforce any training that's been sent. So if she's working on something to try to use more advocacy statements and positive language, she's already received, a 5-minute micro training on that. And now we're reinforcing those key learning points. As you've probably seen in studies, people forget almost 80% of what they've been taught within 48 hours of completing a training. So Rachel goes through the training, and now she's seeing this personalized. She's an Office fan coaching tip that's reinforcing those key learning points from the training she received, so that it actually does, stick and improves her performance. This is a shout out, some recognition that has come in from a supervisor, which is another feature. Agents can recognize people and their supervisors, and this can all be tailored to your, culture, mission, vision, and value statements. And a pop quiz is appearing, similar to the coaching tip I showed. We'll also quiz people on the things that they're trying to improve. And I think this is probably the right answer, and it says I got it correct. And then the last thing to mention here, we run pulse checks. You can, create these. You can have a bank of them. We've got some that, are sent on a regular basis, but we've got 7 questions that we ask every month, and the AI will change them up slightly each month so they don't feel like the same exact, question. But this allows you to get a good read on employees, not just from their performance through the KPIs and through the AI QA results, but how engaged are they? And this is one of the 7 questions we ask. So I'll go ahead and answer that. But that way teams, leaders and supervisors and, all the way up the reporting line of the organization can have a good finger on the pulse about how people are doing and, compare that to their KPIs. You certainly wouldn't want to ignore a star performer who's doing a great job every day. But, with these tools now available in Proponisi, you can see, is that person likely to leave? Are you going to lose a good performer? Sometimes star performers, you just let them go because they're doing a good job every day, but maybe there's some things that need to be addressed to really help them, stick around. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Michael, but that's just a very high level of how, you can leverage the AI QA, how we communicate it to agents, how you can drill down into those results. Just for sake of time, I won't get into this in the demo, but you can also have it generate tickets for non-compliant results that you could have people go in and research, or, have different alerts for different things to be aware of what's going on from all the QA that's coming in. So there's a lot of ways you can check and be notified of certain things to really get the, the best out of the 100% evaluation process that, we're allowing you to do. So Michael, with that, I'll hand it back over to you.
And thank you, Scott. Hopefully when you handed it back to me, you folks can now see the live demo slide, yes?
Yeah, we can see it.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Scott. One of the things that's quite often asked and is, how are we going to take all this information that's coming from quality monitoring? We're going to go from 4 calls to 800 calls. We're going to get all this data. It's going to be overwhelming amount of data. What are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with it? How hard is it going to be to set up? Is it going to be too expensive? And then what do we do with it all? And that's why we've focused so much attention. We just showed you so many different things that you could do through MyStart. And the message that we're trying to communicate is that there's so much to communicate to your front line, and they're not going to spend. You're just not going to let them spend all day long looking at it because they can't. So by creating a structured, hey, listen, we're going to give them a minute or 2 minutes. We're going to give them a burst of critical information that may be training. It may be some sort of a news flash. Maybe we want a pulse, but we're going to control that, but make sure that we take the very best that we can from quality monitoring, from any sort of customer feedback or experience, any sort of supervisor impact, any sort of performance data, and put that in just a way that allows us to keep them encouraged and keep them focused and keep them engaged so that they can be successful. Well, fear number 4 is AI is too expensive and it's too hard to set up. And the reality is that it's remarkably affordable. It's easy to integrate and is going to save you money. And I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, simple installation, but based on where you are in your organization and the things that you already have set up and the technology you've got installed, you might be able to get it done in a couple of weeks. And there's also some extraordinary ROI returns that you can get from utilizing this technology. And then I don't want to miss the very last one here because it may be the most important one for some organizations, depending on how critical compliance is to what it is you're doing. But compliance and the impact that it can have on your organization legally, if you're a BPO, on making sure that you're responsible and you're hitting your targets that you need to for your contracts, this ability to be able to get 100% compliance versus this random shot at maybe I'm going to catch somebody, missing a compliance component is so important to your ability to be successful. I wanted to show you some things related to savings and why everybody's so excited about quality monitoring and AI quality monitoring. Well, remember, because we are recording the calls and because we're transcribing them, because I have a transcription, one of the key areas that you can save money on is in post-call wrap-up. If you're doing any sort of note taking, if there's any sort of summation notes that you're requiring your frontline rep to do, then more than likely you've done one of two things. Either you've added some post-call work time, which means that you've given them 60 seconds, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever it is, so that they can do some sort of summation of notes that you are required before they go on to their next call. Or what you're doing is that you're allowing them to do it in the call, which means that they're doing the summation in the notes while they're listening. Now, we look at a contact center. There's three types of reps that you have in your contact center. There's roses, daisies, and weeds. Roses are your best employees. Daisies are your average employees, and weeds are your worst employees. So in both of those instances, the weeds usually take much more post-call wrap-up time and certainly getting up to speed in order to put the notes in, and they're not necessarily get them very accurately done. If you're a rose or a daisy, you've kind of figured it out, and now you're starting to do it because you want to make sure that you're hitting your targets for post-call wrap. So you're starting to get this information. You're starting to type some things in while you're listening to the call, which means that you're distracted and you're not accomplishing what you need to because you're not as focused as you need to be. And yes, I'm sure your roses can probably do more than one thing at a time, but you're losing the concentration and the focus. With this environment, because it will automate the notes and can put the notes automatically put them into your CRM or show them to your rep so they can look at them and then put them in themselves. What you've done is you've created an ability to be able to save time. In this particular case, we took a 200 agent system. They're doing 52 calls a day. They've got 30-second post call, and look at what 15 seconds does. Look at what 15 seconds does in cost savings. Just from the note taking, we haven't even done any QM yet. We've just taken the efficiency of taking those notes and put them into the system. On the right-hand side, we've looked at QA labor costs and just the ability of, if we've got people that are evaluating, maybe we've got a team of two, maybe we can take one and have them do something else or take over a supervisor's job, and we pick up a supervisor's cost. So without doing any sort of effort, without any sort of improvement in coaching, which might affect AHT, in what we can target and train on, in being able to engage and show them more things that they've done well, which might affect turnover rates. We haven't done any of that. We're just talking about note taking and just the structural manual QM. You can see why people get so excited about this technology and about the ability and impact that it can have on your organization, because quite frankly, it can pay for itself and begin to save you money. And yes, there's no numbers in there associated with what it costs to do it, but I promise you, you're going to get a return on investment. It's going to give you an opportunity to save money in your organization and also dramatically improve your ability to be able to work with your employees to help them be more successful, whether that be the frontline agent or whether that be the supervisor. The last fear that we're showing, and I'm going to make sure that I leave time if you've got another fear that I've missed, is not knowing where to start. And the reality is, in order to make these steps, it's actually clearer than you think. And small steps can lead to big wins. And I don't know where your organization is with AI, but there's no better place to implement AI into an organization than in a contact center. And there's no better start than to do AI quality monitoring. And there really are some simple steps that you can take. The first one is an assessment of your technology landscape so you can see where AI plugs in. How are you doing recordings? Are you doing any sort of transcription? What's your access to your CRM if we were able to take notes? Is that something we could automatically put in, or is that something that maybe the rep's going to do and maybe we won't save quite as much time in doing it? The second is to have a clear ROI roadmap. I mean, literally pretty close to what we just did, but then begin to look at what are the other impacts that you might be able to have. If I was able to train and coach a little bit better, be a little bit more effective, integrate some customer experience in, am I able to get a rep that I can do the things that I want to do? Because if I can have a more knowledgeable, skilled, engaged, and loyal employees, I've hit the superfecta of what we need to do to be successful in holding on to somebody. So I need to make them more skilled and more knowledgeable. And I do that through training and coaching. I make them more engaged, because I now have more data with which to work with. No more fear of this data. When we use MyStart, we can take all this data and show it accordingly, customer feedback and again, QM data. And if they're more engaged, and as a result of them being more engaged, being more skilled, and being more knowledgeable, guess what happens? They're more successful. And they're more successful, they're more connected to your organization, they're more connected to their supervisor, they're more connected to their peers, they're more connected to the customer. And when we have that kind of connection with improved success, it means they're going to be more loyal and they're going to stick around a little bit longer with you. And what you end up doing is you create this environment where I create a pathway that allows me to do that. I create a pathway for them to stick around where their season might be a little bit longer than we had originally expected. And that's really all you can ask for when you're trying to look at how do I improve turnover. People are going to leave. Most people don't wake up and dream that, you know what, someday I'm going to grow up and be a frontline rep and I'm going to work out of my house and that's all I want to do. But there are a lot of people that feel that way. But for whatever the length of season is that someone's going to be with you, if I can help them be more successful in their job, if I can make them more connected, they're going to stick around longer. I'm going to create an environment that's going to be one where people want to come, where they want to be with you because they know that they're going to have an opportunity to be successful. And then finally, you start with a proof of concept. And just to show you how we normally work with most organizations that want to connect with us and want to do this QM thing. Hey, where do I go? How do I start? Well, the first thing is probably to be able to sit down with you and share some calls with us, which usually means that we get some sort of an NDA with you, or you don't even have to share real calls. You could sit down and create some calls that cover some areas that you want, but you send us some calls. You send us your QM form so we understand what you're doing now, and we create just a target kind of a QM. Hey, listen, here's an example of some of the things we might want to measure in QM. Maybe there's some things that you've always wanted to measure, but you just haven't had time to. So we create it, and then we load some calls, and we see the feedback. We see the feedback that you're getting, and you see the data. You can compare those calls to how you QA them today, and you can obviously fine tune it just to get an understanding of what's the impact going to be on your organization. How do my calls and how does my work look in this new environment? And then once we understand that, and we could do 10 calls or 50 calls or 100 calls or whatever that is, you begin to get an understanding of what the impact will be on your organization. And if we have the ROI and we have the feedback on what it is, it makes it very easy for you to make a decision on where you want to go and what you want to do. And if this is something that you want to do throughout your organization, or maybe just a small part of your organization, but it gives you the ability and the capability to see that and to build the confidence and then to be able to scale from there. There are many times, I've been in this industry a long time talking about the impact that technology can have, and does it have the capacity to be faster, better, and cheaper? And the answer is this technology, this AI quality has the ability to be faster, better, cheaper in your organization. And that additional data combined with measuring customer experience, supervisor one-on-one coaching, all the performance statistics that you measure your front line by, whether that be adherence or AHT or attendance or whatever the other components are that you use, this data combined can help you to be a more successful contact center and target, NPS and first call resolution and CSAT and some of the other critical components and measurements that you have in your organization. And we were grateful that we had the opportunity to share it.